I'm facing back to front, over my shoulder at the sun. And it's an open door, and off my line of sight once more.
Hey Spartans, I'm your host Chloe Fair, and welcome to Live at 1575 from home. Hope everyone is doing well and making the most of this time. Today we have videos for you on entertainment and some news to keep you updated. It's hard to stay positive during this time, but it is necessary to get through it. Joseph decided to put together a video on some positive stories. Let's take a look.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Live at 1575 from home. I'm your host, Joseph Abukaled, and today we're going to be talking about some positive news. For our first story of today, Italians at 6 p.m. every evening can be seen gathering at their own balconies and playing music and singing along with one another to pass the time and keep spirits high. Here are some examples. This is a great way for people to stay connected and enjoy time with one another while being socially distant. Secondly, we've got some amazing climate news. Just check out this image of China from January to February 2020 in reducing greenhouse gases. Due to the spread of the coronavirus and the lockdown taking effect in China, people aren't able to move around as much, so air pollution and greenhouse gases have been greatly reduced in that region. A great way to pass the time is going outside. Generally speaking, most people have started going outside, riding bikes, taking walks, going on runs, or just going on a small drive around their neighborhood. It's a great way to pass the time. Of course, maintaining social distance. In some very positive news, the coronavirus curve is flattening. That means social distancing and restrictions might ease off just a bit. This means that life and people in general might start going back to normal. Being one of the 800 million active users on TikTok, you've been bound to see some cooking recipes. Loads of people have stocked up on baking supplies and have started baking things from home and cooking them and uploading them to TikTok. This week, we have 3 recipes from our own broadcast students. Let's check them out.
Today we'll be making Oreo bites, and for those you need a whole pack of Oreos, 8 ounces of cream cheese, and white chocolate. So first you're going to grind up your Oreos until they look like this, and then put 8 ounces of cream cheese in and mix them together, and then you're going to roll them into little balls and place them in the fridge for 30 minutes. After that, you're going to take your white chocolate and melt it in the microwave for about 30 seconds. I did this about 3 times for it to be all the way melted, and then you're going to stir that to make sure there's no clumps in it. Then you'll dip your bites into the white chocolate and sprinkle them with a little bit more Oreo crumbs and put them back in the fridge for 30 minutes. And there you have it.
We wish our Spartan community could be together during this time, but we're so fortunate for everything GSC has been doing. If you haven't received it yet, make sure to check your mailbox for a special gift from GSC to help everyone with the long online classes. Also, all seniors, keep your eye out for the GSC short bus that has been driving around to every single senior's house to drop off their cap and gown and the Class of 2020 poster. This isn't the ending we expected, but hang in there, seniors, and have hope for the summer. In good news, Dr. Harsh officially canceled all exams that aren't AP or dual credit classes. We also want to give a big thank you to everyone who put in work to still have an Easter chapel for us.
Meanwhile,
good morning or evening, Spartans. I'm your guest reporter, Mr. Beecham, coming to you live from GAC. I'm here to show you some of the updates that are going on around campus, while you're at home quarantining and practicing self-isolation. First, I bring you to Spartan Stadium. As you can see, we're missing a large patch of green. What's happening is it's been 10 years since the last time we had turf installed, and so new turf is going in. They've already stripped the field of the turf, as you can tell, and next on the docket is to replace that and to replace the track. So exciting things coming. Stay tuned. We're going to go show you some more updates on campus. I bring you now to the back of the Lyles Media Center to show you some of the next changes that are taking place on campus while you are in self-isolation. If you'll notice, go ahead, camera person. Here is behind the Lyles Media Center. You see the changes. We've got 3 small trees to replace the large grove of trees. Those trees were getting old, and there was some fear that in an ice storm or in a snow or a high wind situation, it might be dangerous for some of our junior high students who like to come out here and play during after lunch. You'll also notice that for now the swing set is gone, but according to sources, something will be up there to replace it. Maybe even that very same swing set, but we'll wait and see. As for now, big changes here behind. Large grove of trees gone, replaced by 3 young saplings. On to our next location. Greetings for a final time, Spartans. I bring you to the last site on campus that's undergoing some radical change. As promised to you before, they're getting ready to make some extensive changes to our Village Green area, and those changes are already underway. If you walk with me, you can see a lot of gravel has already been added. The village playground has been removed.
I did it!
And you can see a large excavation is underway to flatten out the ground, to add some of the things that are going to be added, if you'll recall from earlier newscasts where we told you changes that were coming. Already while we were still on campus, you saw the trees had gotten removed over here as well. Getting ready for the big sweeping changes coming in. I guarantee that we'll have more trees and we'll have some big rocks around here and a great new playscape for the village. That's all for our big changes, and that's all for me. Signing off, wishing you good health and safety to you and your family. It's Mr. Beecham.
This recipe only takes 3 ingredients, which is instant coffee, sugar, and hot water. You'll also need a mixing bowl and something to mix with. So now you're gonna take a tablespoon of all 3 of these ingredients and put them in your mixing bowl. Then you're gonna mix it together, and in this clip I was using a really large bowl, and I recommend using a smaller bowl because I found that it took less time. But it should take like 5 to 10 minutes for it to be a whipped consistency, and all you do is get a glass of milk, put this on top, mix it together, and you have your very own whipped coffee. 10 out of 10, recommend. This has changed my life. I make this almost every day now.
Now we have a feature story on voting created by Joy and Andrew.
Due to COVID-19, the presidential campaign for 2020 has fundamentally changed. So what can we anticipate for this upcoming election? Ideas like mailing ballots has surfaced. However, the struggle to conserve our democracy while being safe has been difficult. Although this may be true, do not get discouraged. Our country has a track record of going through with the elections throughout difficult times. An example, we have had elections through the Civil War, World War II, and throughout another pandemic, which is also known as the Spanish flu. Let's hear it from Beecham, who has been keeping an eye out on what the voting process might look like due to Corona.
So the primary election in Georgia was supposed to be held on March 24th. Obviously, in the meantime, we had a pandemic to deal with. So they moved the voting time to June 9th. The question remains to be seen whether or not the governor's order will have been lifted to shelter in place, or whether it will be extended by then, and then they might have to move that date again. They are making absentee voting available. You can vote by mail, which I think is a good call. In Georgia, there's not a lot on the ballots, depending on what city you're in, because there are some city council runoffs that are called for. But I think that every voter should consider all of the evidence that's available to them. If you're happy with the last 3.5 years of President Trump and you want to see his plans continue, then you should vote for Trump. The main thing a president, a federal government should do is protect its citizens from harm, from invaders. And one of those things is this pandemic. So if you're happy with President Trump's response, if you're happy with the stimulus package, which was largely a bipartisan effort, then by all means, vote for him again. If you're unhappy with the response, then consider do his challengers have a better option? Have they expressed policy that maybe would have kept this from happening? I think some of the states that held their primaries early on as the pandemic was just really getting started, it still probably wasn't wise, but it's hard to make a switch. Some states did. Obviously, they postponed theirs instantly. Georgia was one of those that postponed theirs. It would have come early as our curve was starting to ramp up. But they decided to postpone it. Some states did not. One of those states that was in the news last week was Wisconsin, because they decided to hold theirs, and they survived a challenge that went all the way to the Supreme Court about holding the election in the middle of a pandemic. I don't think it's wise, not only for the people who would come to vote, but also for the workers who worked the polls on those days. You had workers who just refused to come in because it's a dangerous thing, especially for our susceptible members of society. So, really not the wisest decision. But what are you going to do? They had down ballot people to vote for, offices to vote for, and I guess they felt they needed to get those in. It's really a question of what do we do with the things we've known before. Our institutions like our government and voting for the government, our churches, our schools. Everything's been put on hold, and I think people need to be adaptable to an extent. That doesn't mean to say, that when the pandemic's over, hopefully, please God, have mercy. When the pandemic's over, that we should allow our institutions to still be, subjected to the governing authorities. But for now, it's acceptable to put some of our rights on hold to try and protect other people. So I would have liked to have seen that done in Michigan, in Wisconsin, but here we are. Just hopefully this ends quickly and we can get back to some semblance of normalcy.
Since we all have a lot of free time right now, people have been turning to TikTok and Netflix to keep them entertained. Sammy, Lonnie, and Elizabeth tried some TikTok recipes for us to see how they turned out. Let's take a look and then watch Orette's video of Netflix suggestions.
So before I even start the video, this is a short disclaimer. This is a failed attempt at funnel cake. I did indeed burn the funnel cake, but it's okay. Let's get into the video. So the first thing I did was grabbed everything I needed, which I grabbed my pancake batter, a fork, bowl, and water. Then I started to pour the pancake mix into the bowl, and I just eyeballed all of this, especially when I pour the water. You just have to get some type of consistency. So then I mixed it up until it looked like that. And I got my pan, I set it on the stove, of course, turned on the stove, boom, boom, like that. And then I poured my oil into the pan, which I used vegetable oil for this. And while the oil was getting hot, I mixed up cinnamon and sugar so that after I was done, I could pour that onto my funnel cake because I couldn't find any powdered sugar. And so then I poured the pancake batter into the pan, and honestly this is where I messed up because I wish I used like a narrower little pourer thing, so maybe it would have turned out better, but yeah, this is where I messed up. But I poured it into the pan, it started cooking. So I waited until my pancake batter got crispy brown like this, but I let it brown too much because then it looked like this, and it was a little burnt, it was a little crispier than I expected. But I turned the stove off and then took my sugar and cinnamon mix, poured it over, and then voila, that is the finished product. Thank you for watching.
Are you bored? Me too. And we're gonna be stuck like this for a while. So that got me thinking, what does one do when they're bored? They watch movies and TV, silly. So my good buddy Orette and I decided we would give you some Netflix suggestions to watch while you're stuck in quarantine. Let's get it poppin'. Number 1, we have All American. This show is about a high school football player named Spencer James, and he's from a rough neighborhood called Crenshaw. But he gets a chance to change his life by going to a private school in Beverly Hills. Now he's got to balance his watching out for his family, looking out for his hood, and the new relationships, and being a football player. He's got a lot on his plate. So if you love football and you love drama, this is a really good show for you to watch. At number 2, we have Tiger King. The best way I could describe this show is it is wild. The show is about people who keep exotic pets as zoo animals. Specifically, this guy named Joe Exotic. Joe Exotic loves his tigers and he will do anything to keep them. If you love shows that are just bizarre and out of the box, this is one for you to watch. The next show we have is Unorthodox. It was based on a true story. It's a story about a girl named Essie and how she wants to escape her strict Jewish life in Brooklyn. She moves out of Brooklyn, finds her way to Berlin, and she wants to find freedom. But as her whole world comes looking for her, we see her world start to cave in. If you like tense, heart-throbbing drama, I highly recommend this show for you to watch. And lastly, we have one of my favorites, Disenchantment. This show is about a princess named Bean, but she would rather be anything but a princess. And with the help of an elf and a demon, she goes through some wild adventures to find herself. This show is humorous, it's dramatic, and it's action-filled. And it's a show that you should definitely consider watching on Netflix. So those are our Netflix suggestions. I hope you enjoyed watching, stay safe, and enjoy the show.
Thanks for watching. Have a good weekend and enjoy the extra time with your family. This is Chloe Fair, signing off of Live at 5075 from home.